Howdy, y'all. It's Curious Raven on this Wednesday. Today we have a collection of stories that are kind of other ghost stories that don't fit into a one criteria. So I hope y'all enjoy. Number 1. So, when I was a kid, my mom was dating this super strange guy. He claimed he summoned a spirit to watch over our family, and whoever was the first to leave the household, he'd latch onto. He named the spirit Samson. He said once we said his name, he'd appear more often. I never believed this. Now I'm an adult. I moved out of the family home first, and I was telling my friend this story and said his name. I've started seeing a tall black figure standing in door frames late at night. When I started dating my now ex-girlfriend, she told me one night she saw a black figure standing over her. Friends that have stayed at my house without knowing the story have reported the same thing. My theory is if he does, in fact, exist, he's standing over the new people that enter the house to keep them safe. Whenever I move homes, he appears more as well. Anyone have an experience with stuff like this? Number 2. As the title says, I did make an accidental eye contact with a ghost I saw in the mirror. I was at my mother's house at the time. I've since moved away, and was walking down the only hallway in the house. On the wall, we had this beautiful mirror that was hung about head level, and I'd always had the habit of glancing at myself when I would pass by. I remember clearly what he looked like, and I swear I startled him just as much as he did me. I was the only one on that side of the house at the time, so I know it wasn't any one of my family members. Plus, I don't even know anyone who looked even remotely similar to the guy I saw in the mirror. I never saw him again after that. There was always plenty of what I called visitors at that house. I always assumed that they would wander over from the cemetery right down the road, as the house was always super alive with paranormal activity. I have plenty of other encounters I like to share eventually. Has anyone else ever made direct eye contact with a ghost before? I would love to hear in the comments anyone else's experience in that kind of situation. Number 3. So this is very strange, but stick with me. I cannot see ghosts, but I think I can feel them, and specifically tell when certain family spirits are in the room. For backstory, when I was 10, I noticed a pattern where my birthday to about 4 months later, I would sometimes notice a strange feeling or presence. It was not evil, normally just felt like an observer with no message. I told my mother about this, and she told me the duration was close to my dead grandfather's birthday, to Death Day, if you look at the months and days. I didn't know about this because my mom doesn't really talk about her dad, and he died about 10 years before I was born. After, she told me that I may have the trait that she has, along with her mother too. I don't know if there can be a family mediumship. I don't know if that's the right word for it. But I think there is, within family, some things to note. I can specifically feel my family members and can tell their individual presence based on energy. I can tell when ghosts are around. I cannot identify how many, but I can tell energy. Been in buildings before and had paranormal energy, later learned death occurred. I can tell the ghost a general state of peace or lack thereof. My hometown for a very famous haunt that I once toured during the day and had to leave because I felt violently ill until I left. It was a really bad place in its day. I have had few paranormal interactions with dead family. When I do, they are with the people I knew and very specific to them. I don't know. I'm just sharing with the class. Number 4. Few days ago, I had the most incredible encounter, having had a number of what I can only personally call paranormal experiences, including what seemed to have been 2 partial apparitions. On Tuesday, I was driving home with my girlfriend and sister, having picked them up from work, and I nearly hit what I thought to be a man who was about to step in front of my car. I live in a rural village in Cornwall, UK. The village has its own oldie worldly vibe going on and has seen its fair share of strange stuff. I used to work at a cafe on the site of a mining disaster in which 39 men and boys died in a flood, and my ex-colleagues and myself have all had experiences with poltergeist activity in that place. However, my experience on Tuesday has left me entirely confused. Driving past our local pub, a man stood in front of the front garden gates, seemed about to step out in front of my car. He appeared solid, wearing a dark jacket and jeans, but I didn't catch his face. I slammed on the brakes and my girlfriend and sister both shouted and asked what I was doing. As I began to explain to them why I'd stopped so suddenly, I realized the man wasn't there anymore. This all happened in a second or two. And I realized that even though I hadn't taken my eyes off of him, there wasn't a moment in which he slowly dissipated or faded away. He simply was there one moment and wasn't there the next. And it was, if my head couldn't process the whole thing fast enough to notice, he was gone until asked to explain what I was doing. Neither my girlfriend or sister saw him, and I feel like I'm going nuts. In a minute, it was late. I could have been tired, seeing things, but it didn't feel this way at the time. And this guy was so physical and human. I just wish I had a dash cam. Has anyone else had a similar experience in which they've known they've seen something entirely present, yet people around them hadn't seen a thing? Number 5. About 2 years ago, I, female 24-something, currently, was with my best friend, female 23, in her parents' house, which happens to be 1 street away from my parents. We hung out there after work and school and at the weekends, any free time we both had. The apartment is a duplex and her room is on the top floor. We were waiting for her little brother, 14, to come home from school at about 6:15 p.m. And at that time, it was 6 p.m. So there was no way in hell he would get out at 6 p.m. and get home not a minute later. Yet we heard him get to the lower apartment, open the door, and start singing, which was a totally normal thing for him to do. We called his name so many times, and he just kept singing, but he didn't answer. We were pissed at him because we wanted him to run to the store by the house to grab us all food. So we just laughed it out and sat a bit finishing what we were doing before going down and teasing him about ignoring us. Little backstory. The lower apartment is composed of a kitchen, a bathroom, 2 living rooms, 1 small, 1 big, and the parents' bedroom, and the little brother's bedroom. And I just hated the side of the kitchen in the big living room. I never felt comfortable there. It always looked dark no matter how many windows are open and how many people are in there. I hated it and almost never went there. It just didn't feel right. Back to the story. A couple of minutes before going down, the intercom started ringing. We called the still singing dude to pick up the intercom, but he didn't. So we went downstairs, but no one was there. Not a soul. Her little brother, who was singing, was the one ringing. We opened the door for him. He got up and we asked him if he got in. And he said that he left his keys in and had gotten out of school, and it was about 6:12 p.m., which is logical walking and talking to his friends on the way and all. I checked the keys were inside the house. My friend refused to talk more about it because she lived there and didn't think more, just like any other experience she had. But this one, we couldn't brush it off, and we eventually talked about it because it was shared between us. We can't hallucinate the same thing for like 10 straight minutes, but we can't explain it either. Number 6. And this is a paranormal 911 emergency advice needed, so I might throw in my 2 cents. Not sure yet. First of all, I want to say that my English isn't the best. I am from Germany. Since 2 weeks, my 2-year-old sister says that she sees a ghost woman. It's really scary because she does scary things, like tries to cut her ears off and scratch our faces and bites us. When we ask her why she is doing things like that, she says the ghost woman tells her to do things like that. She can't go to kindergarten in the moment, but someday she doesn't talk to us. She only talks to the ghost woman in a different language that we do not understand. One day last week, she just sits on the swing and swings, and then the swing next to her is swinging too, but there's no one sitting there. Very creepy. That's only a few examples of many paranormal things that happened in the last 2 weeks. Anybody has things like this that has happened to them, can you please help us? We don't want to give her medicine before we try other things to figure out what is exactly her problem. Well, I will say that when they're little like that, that happened to my son as well when he was around 3, a teenage boy that was haunting our house at the moment. And I don't think that he was like a malevolent spirit, but he was very mischievous. He was very mischievous, and he would tell my son to do things that my son would normally not do, and he would get in trouble for it. So we just told the ghost that he has passed away and he is not welcome in our house anymore and it's not his home anymore. And we appreciate if he did not tell our child to do things that will get him into trouble when he needed to leave. And it worked. And he left. And we didn't have any more issues out of my child like that anymore. So that's something that you could do. Just talk directly to the ghost. Just open a door or a window when you tell them to leave, because sometimes spirits feel trapped and they can't leave. But if they see a window or door open, it lets them leave out that way. So that's my advice. Tell the ghost, but very respectfully, to leave your little sister alone. And that in Jesus' name, they are not welcome there anymore. And that they need to move on and leave. And see if that helps. And you got to really have intention behind your words and really mean it and be stern about it. Okay? So that's something that you could try. I'm not saying that it will work for you, but you never know. It worked for me. Story number 7. This is by a guy named Steven. So shout out to Steven. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. So I woke up in the middle of the night to piss. Like every night, sometimes around 2 to 3 a.m. I go back to bed, got really comfortable, still awake. Before it happened, I felt so peaceful. Everything felt right, still awake at this time. And as I was laying there, all of a sudden, something poked me in my chest, and a pretty good poke, to know that it wasn't a bug or anything like that. Felt exactly how it would feel if someone poked you with their finger. I set my head up and looked around and saw nothing. Didn't hear nothing. Laying there trying to debunk what just happened, I couldn't. Had no fear because my brain automatically is telling me it's just a muscle spasm or something fell on me. That wasn't the case. I felt no negative energy any time that this went on. Just something I've never experienced before. So I just went back to sleep. Alright, that's the end of our stories today. I hope y'all liked this little collection. I'm going to try my best to be here tomorrow and give y'all, and if not, I'll be here Friday with some more stories for y'all. I love y'all so much. Until then, remember, it's scary out there. Please like and subscribe.
Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross